Throughout the duration of this video, we will be taking a look at the mind map I have created, entailing the thought process as well as the topics and key concepts covered thus far. The first thing I will be discussing is the formatting of my mind map and why I chose to do it in the way that I did. We started off with the topic of the course in the center of the mind map, as everything around it falls under the topic of technology and society. Continuing on, each of the main topics covered in the course is specified to a color. By doing this, it allows not only the audience, but even myself to stay organized and follow along in a way that avoids confusion or misplaced information. I then made the border and text of each branch in a specific way. The main topic of each week would be bolded and have a border with the little spikes as a way to signify that this was the main topic. I then put each of the main concepts connecting to the main topics in a squared border that has the sharp points on each intersecting line. Following this, the context and sub-branches that came after had rounded edges. Almost each main topic has at least one picture included that relates to what is being said. I did this to make it more visually appealing, as well as attempting to not bore the audience with the amount of information being provided. The reasoning behind this is so that everyone viewing, including myself, could properly understand and follow the order of not only importance, but also the correct way of viewing so that there would be no confusion. Starting with the first main topic, discussed throughout the winter term, is the technological society. Presenting main concepts like automation and chatbots, I proceeded to present benefits and disadvantages to both. Then I mentioned the history of technology, mentioning the Fourth Industrial Revolution as well as the Green Revolution, providing context and information for both. Following this, I mentioned the topic of theorizing the relationship between science, technology, and society. Using the example of cell phones, I outlined the components of SCOT, mentioning relevant social groups, and outlining what each group's purpose is in relation to cell phones, followed by more points of information. Moving on to the fourth topic discussed in the second half of the course is gender and technology. I mentioned the term big data and provided a definition, its objectivity, and a complication. Then I mentioned the topic of social media and outlined how it is used in both a positive and negative manner when referring to gender. The topic of technology and inequality was next, in which I mentioned and defined the concept known as the digital divide. Additionally, I mentioned the differences in technology ownership while also discussing the one laptop per child intervention, in which I listed the pros and cons. Another topic discussed was the politics of technology. For this topic, I mentioned the inherently political tendencies, where I used the example of nuclear power. I also mentioned the technical arrangements as forms of order, in which I used the example of Robert Moses's highway in New York. The next topic discussed is science, technology, and the reimagined community. With this, I mentioned the most important topic of social capital. I then defined this term and mentioned the public and private effects. Additionally, I stated definitions to the terms community and society. Following this was the topic of NBIC convergence. With this, I mentioned the four key technologies, which are nanotechnology, biotechnology, information technology, and cognitive sciences. I also listed the four principles of biomedical ethics, while also mentioning the phrases technology is becoming biology and biology is becoming technology. I then discussed the topic of techno-mediated relationships. I mentioned the main people involved in this topic, including Eric A. Havelock, Walter J. Ong, and Harold A. Innis. I also stated the self concept, as well as mentioning the well-known issue of cyberbullying. The next topic listed is artificial intelligence and transhumanism. I mentioned and defined the term transhumanism, as well as mentioning the concept of singularity. The last topic mentioned is the surveillance society. I mentioned the three perspectives of surveillance, which are the capitalist, rationalism, and power perspectives, providing definitions, benefits, and limitations to each. I also outlined the three views being the cultural, functional, and revolutionary view. In addition, I mentioned the sous-veillance model and the use of privacy protection strategies, as well as listing the Toronto Sidewalks project. Overall, I tried to follow a pattern in terms of the formatting, but also in terms of what information I included and how much I included. Some topics are a little more word heavy because I believe that you cannot accurately depict these topics in a couple words. That brings me to the conclusion of the presentation for my mind map. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it.